Well, hello everyone and welcome to the Smart City Virtual Roundtable, which we call Together for a Better Future. And we are going to get together tonight to talk about a better future. We have a conversation tonight between Taiwan and cities in the United States who are or have been designated as intelligent communities. My name is Zacharilla. I'm one of the founders of the Intelligent Community Forum. We are an international think tank headquartered in New York, and I'm really delighted to be here to be your moderator for this conversation. The organizers I would like to thank because we wouldn't be here without them, and they are the Smart City Development Project Office, delegated by the Administration for Digital Industries, the Ministry of Digital Affairs in Taiwan, and our organization, the Intelligent Community Forum, which has also an Intelligent Community Taiwan organization. So we're very grateful that these two folks have organized this for us. What we're going to do tonight is really have a discussion about the digital infrastructure that is in place and how it is enabling communities to continue to go forward, not just technologically, but also socially. So we're going to be talking about what technology means for citizens in the three communities that we have under the spotlight tonight. So we'll be having a broader discussion about that, and we're looking forward to that. Before I introduce our guests tonight, I did want to take a few moments to give a loud congratulations to the city of New Taipei City in Taiwan. We just came from Dublin, Ohio, where the Intelligent Community Forum had its 23rd annual summit and awards program. And as many of you know, in the State House for the state of Ohio on the evening of October 27th, New Taipei City emerged from a pack of 7 very worthy contenders to be named Intelligent Community of the Year. And we were just delighted to see Taiwan have that honor. It's the 4th time in the history of our awards that they have had a #1 city. So congratulations to those of you in Taiwan tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah.
And I believe the folks from Taiwan are just New Taipei City are on their way back after having an information gathering tour at Ohio State University and other places. So they learned quite a bit, and they learned quite a bit about the city of Dublin, Ohio, which Mr. Doug McCollough, who's with us tonight, their CIO will tell you quite a bit about. So let me introduce the people who are a part of this roundtable, the Smart City Virtual Roundtable. I want to welcome you, our listeners, to this. Mr. Jiunn Shiow is the Deputy Director of Administration for the Digital Industries, the Ministry of Digital Affairs, I should say, in Taiwan. He is coming to us from his new office tonight, so he isn't even unpacked yet, but he's willing to spend an hour with us to talk a little bit about what he does. Just to give you a little bit of a brief on the organization, the administration's missions are quite important. They are to promote the development of the digital economy in Taiwan, guide, award, and manage digital economy related industries. The administration is the authority on digital economy development, in charge of digital economy related industry policy planning and regulation drafting, as well as digital technology application promotion, which encompasses things that many of you are familiar with: artificial intelligence, big data, platform technology, system integration and field applications, software products and digital services, digital content and data economy, and economy-related industry talent cultivation. It's a wide portfolio and very critical to both Taiwan's economy and, of course, many of our economies, because Taiwan has such an influence there. So, Director General Lin, thank you so much for making the time to be with us tonight. Ni hao.
Yeah, thank you.
Also with us tonight, as I mentioned earlier, is Doug McCollough. Doug is the CIO of the city of Dublin, Ohio, a multi-time top 7 intelligent community. And for those of you who may not be quite familiar with Dublin, Ohio, they are not Dublin, Ireland. They are actually a higher performer than Dublin, Ireland. They are located kind of on the border with Columbus, which is the state capital. They are also the home of the Intelligent Community Forums Institute, but they have been, like Taiwan, performing well above their population capacity for a number of years. For example, Dublin has more Fortune 1000 companies located there than any other city in the United States on a per capita basis. And of course, that's not an accident, as you will learn in a few moments. Doug is the Chief Information Officer of the City of Dublin, where he leads initiatives in IT information, innovation, digital experience. He oversees their smart city strategy, broadband, of course, intelligent communities, and blockchain. Dublin, Ohio, as I said, has a reputation as a haven for tech-oriented businesses interested in the collaboration opportunities between smart cities and the private sector. And he has really facilitated the infrastructure there that is, in the view of many people, a sort of testament to the new urbanism and what is possible with intelligent communities. A city of 50,000, as I said, that performs like a city that's much larger. We think they're the model of the future going forward, and they are beginning to prove us right. The city is innovating in areas of, again, artificial intelligence, broadband, augmented reality, virtual reality, connected and autonomous vehicles, a very big series of initiatives are going on there. Smart mobility, intelligent transportation systems, IoT, UAVs, and automation. And through the Global Institute for the Study of the Intelligent Community, Dublin reaches out to communities around the state of Ohio, to establish an intelligent state, which Ohio was so designated. The city has partnerships with the Route 33 Innovation Corridor, Council of Governments, in the establishment of a smart mobility corridor that, again, is probably leading the United States in this area, and certainly for the testing of connected and autonomous vehicles. So they are, again, someone that we can look to as an intelligent community that gets it right and is an example for others, and is now beginning to influence the entire state of Ohio into looking probably more like Taiwan, which has many, many intelligent cities, and as has been spoken of before, is an intelligent island. So Doug, welcome. Great to see you again.
Thank you, Lou, and welcome to my peers and colleagues, and good morning and good evening.
We're going to move a little further east in the United States, and our other conversation partner tonight is the city of Arlington, the county of Arlington in Virginia. One of the, again, more remarkable places, a multi-time intelligent community. The last time it was a top 7 was 2017. Arlington benefits greatly from its location on the border. It's also a border city, if you will, to Washington, D.C. Arlington County is the home of the Pentagon, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. More than 8,000 federal employees work there, and tens of thousands more private sector and nonprofit jobs are enabled by its proximity to the federal government. The concentration of nationally known universities has given the county a remarkable educated workforce, in which more than 73%, 3 out of every 4 adult residents, has a graduate degree. So it's a very smart place. So don't mess with it. It's a high-tech public school system is ranked in the top 2% in the United States. It is also a national example of very smart growth planning, thanks to successful initiatives in the 1980s that caused a new metro rail line from Washington to run through an existing commercial corridor rather than a cheaper route along a future interstate highway. The result was a high-density economic growth that took place around these metro stations, leaving quiet residential neighborhoods and about 1,200 acres of green space beyond. So it was a testament to intelligent planning as well. Representing Arlington and what they call the Arlington Way is Sindy Yeh. Sindy is the Senior Business Ambassador at Arlington Economic Development. She is a two-decade experienced international business development and program management executive. In her current role, she assists local, national, and international businesses, enabling them to expand or relocate to the community in an effort to continue to grow the robust economy in Arlington. She is a certified economic developer, and she is someone who is a big part of the success at Arlington. So Sindy, welcome to our roundtable tonight.
Thank you very much. I'm very glad to be on this panel.
It's good to see you, and we appreciate you making the time. Holly Hartell joins her. Holly is also based in Arlington County, Virginia. She is the Department of Technology Services Assistant Chief Information Officer for Strategic Initiatives. She's been employed with the county government since 2006. She started her career with the county as a consultant, where she led the finance team for the county's enterprise resource planning and implementations. She served as the operations manager for the system for almost a decade before moving into her current role as the Department of Technology Services Assistant CIO for Strategic Initiatives. She's responsible for aligning tech investments with the strategic direction of the county and the needs of the citizens. Her area of focus includes digital equity and smart city opportunities. So, Holly, it's great to see you as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be in such great company of such an esteemed colleague. So I'm interested in the next couple of minutes and listening to the conversation and participating in the conversation.
Well, thank you. It's going to be a good one. I spent all that time giving people your credentials tonight because, again, we wanted to establish that we have people here who have built cities, run cities, and understand the power of the digital platform and how it can make intelligent communities and the places we call home so much better. So, Director Lin, I'm going to start with you tonight since you're the host. This is a home game for you. Let's talk about the core framework, the community's core, Taiwan's core framework, and how it enables smart cities. Can you give us a little sense of how you adopt technology in order to support the digitization development, but also the growth of the remarkable economies that we find there?
Okay, thank you. I think first of all, I would like to thank our speakers for taking time with us at your Sunday night, especially in this Halloween season. You are supposed to, do some celebration activity with your family. So I would like to thank you for your participation. And speaking of, the core framework in becoming smart city, I think Taiwan employ a model called the PPPP, public-private and people partnership. And there are two mechanisms. One is top-down and the other is bottom-up. So, but the only difference is who initiated the project. For top-down mechanism, the central government initiated the project. And for bottom-up mechanism, the local government initiated the project. But today, I'm going to focus on the top-down mechanism because my colleague Betty is going to focus on bottom-up mechanism in the next roundtable, ICF roundtable. So I think speaking of technology to support the digitalization development, I think you all know Taiwan is an island with a famous ICT industry. So we always think about how to use technology to develop digital services. So in terms of policy, we encourage the industry to make use of today's advanced technology, such as 5G,
Thank you for that, Mr. Deputy Director General. Because Mr. Lin, because what's interesting there, just as I segue to Doug here, is of course the top-down and bottom-up approach, which is unique, and but that in itself is not the thing. What's interesting about Taiwan and its approach is that you would think it sounds a little bit like small ball, right? It's the individual being served by the government with the technology. And what we've learned is that this is part of a policy in Taiwan, which is really designed to use technology to, as they said at New Taipei City, to relieve the burdens of living on their citizens. Now, when you think about that, that's a wonderful phrase. But what it really means is that we understand that life is hard. And believe me, anybody who lives in New York City and looks for parking believes that life is not hard, that life may not even be worth living on some days. But here we are in Taiwan, where they're thinking about how to apply the technology, as Mr. Lin said, to save up to 8 minutes a day. That's about 24 hours a year. Multiply that by the hundreds of thousands of people now who have time to do other things, to be more productive, to spend more time shopping, to concentrate, perhaps to spend an extra 2 hours at church or with their family. And so, Mr. Lin, that has economic consequence as well, because we know from studies of economics that when people are happier, that when the burdens of living are taken off them, they produce more, correct?
Yeah, but or in economic, we call it a utility. That's people's utility, you know.
People's utility.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of a mechanical way to say it, but I think that's in fact what happens. People's usefulness is sort of liberated. Thank you for that. Doug, Dublin, Ohio took a different approach, I think. It decided to take its destiny in its own hands as a city. It kind of went from the bottom versus the top-down, bottom-up approach, right? You guys built a municipal network, and then from there you began to design and get ahead of the game with regard to your own digital infrastructure. Can you tell the people listening out there a little bit about how Dublin approached its digital infrastructure construction and what the social and economic outcomes have been?
Sure, and I really do appreciate Director Lin talking about 4 Ps, PPPP. We just used 3 Ps, so now I've got to add a 4th P. So I appreciate that. And, you know, we actually think less about a total smart city anymore than we did in the past. And we use the Intelligent Community Forums methodology to achieve intelligence. We believe that you can achieve smart on the path to intelligent. And its framework is robust, complete, and actionable. So that's our thinking there. And that said, we are opportunistic about using smart technologies to address specific needs, such as curbside management, parking, traffic, congestion relief, and connectivity. And so we do say parking, but we've been talking a little bit more about curbside management lately. It's the new buzzword. So I found that local government is a little bit less proactive in adopting technologies. And so we need to build interest or even demand for technology adoption before we're able to gain an appreciation for forward-looking ideas. So we try to lead not by discussing technologies at all, but rather interests or opportunities, problems or services. And we found that people are interested, for example, we have something called SnowGo application that allows them to monitor the plowing of snow. They're more interested in that than they are in whatever the application is or the technology behind it. They just like to be able to know when their street is going to be plowed of snow. And so once we've implemented such a technology, we find that people are then interested in expanding it or extending it, but they weren't interested in it initially. And in addition, we don't necessarily like to do pilots all the time, but running pilot projects, you know, for local government are a good way to both validate the thesis behind the new technologies, as well as see if there is citizen support for the changes. So pilots work. Ultimately, there must be a citizen or resident benefit to the adoption of the technology, such as relief of traffic congestion or faster access to parking or greater transparency of records or data. And so I must say, during the Global Summit this past week, all of our communities were inspired by the Taiwan phrase, you know, relief of the burdens of living. And it's just a wonderful way of putting it. But I think all of us are really focused on what is your need first, because people grow tired of hearing about how smart we're going to be and how we're going to use this technology. And yet they want to talk about it. So we have to find, hit people where they are and what are your challenges and what are you facing? And let's make the technology as invisible as possible.
Yeah, thank you, Doug. And again, that's a key phrase, right? Because I think you've said before that the technology has to really, really run in the background like software. You almost like flipping on a light switch. Citizens can't be thinking about this stuff because they have other applications to run, like their lives, right? Like getting to work.
Right. I believe so. I think it's a trap talking about technology too much, especially since as a technology guy, I will do that. But, we don't use it anymore, but it used to be like dial tone. You pick up the phone and there's dial tone. You don't care how it works. You just, when you pick up that phone, there better be dial tone there.
Right. and frankly, we spend too much time talking about how we're connecting today. You spend the first 5 minutes of every Teams call talking about why you couldn't get connected or something. So
Right.
we got to get rid of that stuff pretty soon, right? Get back to dial tone. And Holly's nodding her head. I think she agrees with me. Holly, talk to me about Arlington County government's priorities and challenges in terms of adopting technology. And again, you guys were first movers out there. Your role includes, I think, assessing technology to align with community needs, which is similar to what we're talking about here. How do we ensure that our citizens have a good experience and are able to not even think about technology or government, frankly, so they can get on with their lives?
What Doug was saying and Mr. Lin was saying was resonating with me, because a lot of how we're focusing, you have to be very careful that you're not focusing on the technology product, but the outcome itself, right? And I hear, when you're talking about relieving the burdens on the citizen, I love that's a beautiful statement, and I agree that the way that you frame that is wonderful. And what we're spending a lot of our time doing right now is we have outcomes where we're trying to focus, but let's make sure we're really focusing on the true outcome, not somewhere in between. And that, as Doug was saying, it's going to actually have a benefit to the community. So we call our pilots proofs of concept. A slight change in the name, because we believe that the proof of concept is leading us, using those words are leading us more towards, we're focusing on an outcome, right? That whatever we're going to be doing, we should make sure that we're tying it to the outcome. Louis, you asked about, what are our priorities and what are we focusing on? From our strategy, what we've been building around for the last number of years and continue to innovate and focus. Obviously, the elevation of cybersecurity and data privacy and resiliency is something that underpins everything that we're doing. And also building for us that culture of innovation. And a lot of that innovation ties into a lot of the smart community type products, but also helping people to have the skills to stay with the county and grow with the county, to service as those needs are changing. The other thing for us is the transparency and accountability. A lot of that is going back to, does the community trust and feel like where we are investing their tax dollars and our efforts are going to benefit them? How are we improving their services? How are we making their lives better? And making sure that we are communicating with them, we are on the same page and they understand, and so that we can move forward successfully. Some of our biggest efforts most recently, and a lot of our smart community work has been within the public safety arena, focusing on the safe and secure community, and thinking about how some of these new technologies can help provide, faster response time for our public safety, better information for incident response, better communication tools for when an emergency situation is arising. And so what we're doing right now is working very closely with public safety to define what are the outcomes that you are expecting, and making sure that we have the technology, because there's a lot of new technology, right? And if we let the technology lead us, it's not necessarily what we need, and making sure that it's connecting to what we're trying to achieve. Part of our importance in thinking about public safety is also to make sure we're balancing that with the privacy. Privacy is very, very important within Arlington. It was said earlier that, I think 75% of the community holds a bachelor's degree or above. But I think because of that, we've got a very, very involved and knowledgeable community that's helping drive us. We call it the Arlington way, I think.
Yes.
Right. And it means that, they are very interested and expect to be communicated to and involved and engaged. But for us, we do want that. We want to make sure that, like I said, what our benefit and what we're focusing on is going to benefit. We have got to, using tax dollars, we need to make sure that we are using our resources to benefit them. I want to go back to a couple of points about the about where we are with our pilots. We've got a couple of different areas that we're focusing on using sensor technology in public safety, but also looking at the in-building infrastructure to make sure that public safety can respond. Utilizing, we've got a number of new things that have happened in Arlington in the last couple of years, with Amazon and HQ2 being located in an area now called National Landing. That spurred a lot of interest and opportunity for us that we're trying to make sure that we're taking advantage of. And I'm thrilled to have the partnership of opportunities. And as we were talking about the 3 Ps or 4 Ps, I understand fully how that is so important, that not only are you utilizing those partnerships to benefit the county from an economic development perspective, but also for us to partner and understand how these new technologies will enhance our services. So I'm happy that we're in this place and look forward to where we're going to be headed in the future.
And thank you for also teeing up the issues of trust and privacy. And I know Sindy will be talking to you about the economic development side and how Amazon locating its headquarters there is going to be transformational, probably. But, I want to stay with you for a second, Holly. 235,000 people or so there in Arlington County, not in and of itself a unique thing. A lot of cities have 235,000 people, but not all of them have the Pentagon in their backyard, or Supreme Court justices of the United States who mow their lawn there in their homes.
Right.
In Arlington. You have some unique categories there. You have some unique assets there that I have to ask, does it lend itself to looking at the security aspect of the digital network differently? Do you have to give more emphasis to that? Have you had to even beta test things that our other cities might not have to consider because you have these unique American assets in your county?
I would say we absolutely do. I mean, this is where we need to be very careful and very sensitive of how we're moving forward with what we're doing. We have a top-notch security team that, we're doing everything we possibly can, but we're also utilizing the resources that are around us. We utilize CISM, we utilize some of the other individuals and entities that are located to help us inform and be aware and benefit from that, so that we can make sure that we're protecting, because we're not only Arlington, but we're connected in with all the other communities in the National Capital Region. And so we work very closely together. There's something called the COG, Council of Governments, that operates together on areas not only from a technology perspective, but also from a security perspective as a leader, to make sure that if we're looking at this, it can't be just us alone. We need to be looking at it together.
So more collaboration, in other words, to provide security that includes technology.
Yep.
Okay. Sindy, do you want to add anything quickly on the economic development side, or the sort of the consequences of what Holly has teed up? Because I want to come back to the Amazon issue a little bit later on, but is there anything else?
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned earlier, it's a very educated community. Not only the Pentagon is here, Reagan National Airport is here, and the White House is just across the river from us. So we do have lots of opportunities, but also constraints. For example, like, drones, flying drones around the area, we are not allowed to fly because of the miles around the White House. So that's one thing that, sometimes, if we're trying to do these testbed technologies, we have to be conscious of those restrictions.
Yeah, so there are restrictions as well. Just again, quickly, does that actually work against you in terms of economic development? I mean, you got Amazon, so obviously they didn't bother them.
No, not really. I think it just took years. As you mentioned earlier, the development, building the infrastructure to attract high-tech companies, we have it. So I don't think it's a hindrance.
Yeah. And again, I want to revisit some of that later on, again, to see how the digital technology maybe enhances that. But I want to speak with Mr. Lin now about the challenges that you encounter when you're transforming a city or a nation into an intelligent island or smart island, and how you overcome them. I do know that what we heard from New Taipei City is that a lot of what they've done is to invest in making sure that citizens trust that this technology is not going to be invasive, but rather supportive. So building trust seems to be job one with regard to overcoming, the most fundamental challenge that a human being has, which is, can I really trust this stuff? But please help me understand some of the challenges that you encounter.
Yes, the biggest challenge I would say is to change users' behavior. When you want to launch new smart city solutions, the first thing is to identify those factors that affect users' resistance and come up with solutions to eliminate it. So I think then people are willing to adopt the new application. Let me give you an example. In Taiwan, when there is a big event coming, such as when someone wants to participate in examination or want to have a job interview, they always come to temples and ask for a prize from the god. And then now we use that technology, which is this culture tradition, put it on some we demented elderly, because we want to attract demented elderly because they will go around and get lost, and especially in rural area because of the aging population there. So the proportion of elderly people in rural area are increasing now because they tend to get lost. So we need to come up with some solutions for them to put on their body, and we can track where they are. So but in the past, the solution is to wait in personal satellite locators, but this technology is power consuming. So then startups came up with we call lucky charm, and
Lucky charm
necklace.
Oh, and, okay.
Yeah, lucky charm. So and elderly people like to wear that lucky charm because they think that they are blessed. So and we put some maybe IoT sensor or Bluetooth sensor in the lucky charm. So then we can check their where their position. If they get lost, we can quickly find them. The problem of resistance from the users, and we come up with some solutions to solve that problem. I think this and the elderly people are will accept that technology. So this is an example. Maybe it's unique in Taiwan. I don't know, but it's a culture related solution. Yeah.
Right. Well, I think it's amazingly compassionate and clever and a great use of technology, and that, as I understand it, these things weigh less than 25 grams, and so the elderly can wear it without any burden.
Yeah.
And I also understand that it's not just something that like a neutral metal. It's combined with temples, right? There's a cultural, am I right? A cultural element to it. It's kind of like the Christians wearing a St. Christopher medal, or my mother used to wear, I think, one of the saints or something.
Yes.
Yeah. So it builds trust because it's something that they're familiar with. Obviously, the temple, right? So
yes,
it's very good. Thank you for that. That's again another example of taking the burden right off. In this case, probably the children of the demented or the elderly person in that rural economy who probably is living in a city. Doug, just to stay with the temple analogy, the first noble truth of Buddhism, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Lin, is that we suffer. But the second one is that the reason we suffer is because we're attached. And that could also mean we're attached to old ideas, old concepts. That never has seemed to be, I can tell you what the other two noble truths are, but I have to look it up. But I remember those two. But that does not seem to be the problem in Dublin, Ohio. For whatever reason, and I don't know, what it is in the water out there, you guys have always said yes to ideas that connect technology to the types of economic and social development that we're talking about today. Is there something that you have done or that the city has done to make people comfortable with the notion that, hey, you just can't hang on to what happened 20, 25, 30 years ago, you have to move on? How do you take a populace forward in an intensely technological environment?
Lou, I wish that was the case. I will say that we are subject to people's feelings about their discomforts and their fears. And, human beings, I think, are the same all around the world. And people do have those things. One of the things I think you'll see in Dublin is the intention to build upon proven successes. So people are naturally skeptical, and it's something that we actually encourage. Natural skepticism is a good quality in a democracy, right? It's good to mistrust and to say, well, prove it to me, and those kinds of things. But in order to make more rapid progress, I think you have to lay down some successes and then call upon them. And you can't lean on or rest on your laurels, as they would say, but you can potentially say, look at what we did with our broadband program, with our Dublin fiber optic system. We now want to do a 100 gigabit project that's going to post 100 gigabits of capacity. That we did that a few years ago. And then look at the success what we had with the 100 gigabits project, or with the National Science Foundation grants, or with any of these other successes that you then need to communicate about. And what we find also, another advantage, is that Dublin is filled with, I envy Washington, D.C. and Arlington, Virginia. We have a similar, when you're filled up with technological people, they tend to not only accept the possibilities and give you a little bit of time to prove them out, but they will often convince others. And I'm almost certain that this is the case in Arlington, where you have evangelists and you have people who are willing to say, hey, give it a try. Listen, I know what they're doing. And that is like solid gold when you're trying to convince a populace to trust you, especially in an age where people have lowering trust levels of government at every level, which they should. I mean, again, we should be skeptical, but you can't get anything done if nobody trusts anything you do. So I think one of the things Dublin has done well is to talk up any small success we may have had and use it as a proof point to say, it's almost like a credit card. Like I paid you back before, give me a little bit more, so that we're now going to try this thing with cameras, or with 5G, or with smart parking, or with connected and autonomous vehicles, or with drones. But you have to communicate about each one, and some of them fail. So, it's important that people don't lose confidence in you. And if you visit Dublin, you'll find people with a high level of confidence in our ability to innovate.
Yeah, and also, again, a highly educated population there, which I think helps. The other thing, Doug, that I think might tie to this is, I think you guys are using that Zen City platform, or a platform that allows you to sort of take the temperature or the pulse with regard to looking at social media that's taking place all around the environment, so that you kind of know, don't you, from time to time, what the temperature or the pulse of the people is?
We do, and we do use that platform. But I would say one of the big advantages is kind of a pre-test, and sort of, if like during the pandemic, we had to cancel the 4th of July parade. And that's a big deal, and it's a real problem, and people are really miserable about it. But we were able to know that it was probably going to be a problem, and test our messaging out to see what would be more positively received before we went further and wide with it. But that is important, being conscious of how is this going to land? Because at the end of the day, I think we're all saying the same things. You can't just walk out into the neighborhoods and say, we've got a great technology, it's going to solve all of your problems. People just don't believe you. They want a parade. Really, they don't care about the technology. How are you going to do it so that we can have our favorite parade every year? And we have to use that language. And I want to be careful, and I know none of us intend it, but we often talk about a highly educated population that allows us to do some things. And when we have areas without some of that education, with fewer graduate degrees and things like that, they are often just as resilient and innovative. They just require a different kind of communication. But often you can leapfrog and you can do things faster with different kinds of populations, especially vulnerable populations and diverse populations. So on the one hand, you can do more high-tech things in a place that might trust you with it, but you might be able to do other kinds of innovation, especially around public safety, in other types of populations with a different level of educational attainment.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, trust has no IQ measurement or value, right? It is something that is innate in human beings, and like everything else, you kind of know it when you see it, and it's one of those thresholds that once overcome, all things are possible, right? So I think that's a good clarification there. And so, Sindy, like Doug said, on the 4th of July, we don't want to hear about sensors. We want to see the parade. We want to see the flags fly and the Veterans March, right? And the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts saluting. That's what we want. But just to stay on this subject of transformation and change, I mean, you've got an 800-pound gorilla coming in into that community, and Amazon HQ2 is going to transform the community for decades to come. I mean, we blew it in New York. They wanted to locate 25,000 workers here and all that, and we said we don't need it in New York. This is before the recession or the pandemic, right? New York doesn't need that. So they went to Arlington County, among other places. I mean, good for you, but that's a big change, right? That's how is that being managed? Is that something that has been disruptive? Are you prepared for it? Does the economic sort of bedrock that Holly and others have put in there enabling it? How's that going, I guess, is the question.
Well, I think Amazon right now, they are on track to do everything that they have promised. In 2008, when they first selected Arlington out of 238 cities, they said that they were going to invest $2.5 billion into the Arlington and the surrounding communities, bringing in like 25,000 to 37,000 high-paying technology jobs. And, just to provide some context, and Amazon is going to build 4.9 million square feet of commercial office space in National Landing area, which is at the south end of Arlington near National Airport. And I did a conversion for our Taiwan audience. It's about 137,000 ping fang of commercial office space that Amazon is going to build, all the way to they're on track to build 6 large commercial office buildings for that size, and growing up to 37,000 high-tech jobs. So New York didn't welcome them. We're happy to take them.
Right.
So we're very happy about that. But they're all on track. It's a multiple department effort. And earlier on, when we're talking about partnership, it's not just Arlington working on this. Starting from the very beginning, it was a regional collaborative effort. We partner with our regional partners, our Northern Virginia neighbors, as well as the state of Virginia. We combined our resources and our proposal is to present the entire region's asset. So it's not just us alone. We work with the entire region. And, our entire proposal, we were talking about it, is that people was always asking us, like, why did Amazon pick Arlington? And the answer is just workforce. We know that Amazon said that by locating to Arlington, it helps them attract the necessary, high-skilled talent that they need. And the state of Virginia committed $2 billion in growing the technology talent pipeline that Amazon will need going into the future. So this is not just for Arlington alone. Growing this tech talent pipeline will benefit the entire region, not just for one company. So we think that this is a very good strategy, and because it's a regional effort, they are on track, and I'm sure Holly's department has worked in the Department of Technology Services in Arlington. Multiple departments has been working with them to keep them on track, whether it's providing them with permit to start start laying the foundation, or zoning issues, signage issues. It's not just one department, it's multiple departments coming together to make it work for them. We know this is a game changer. It's a once in a lifetime investment. So it's all hands on deck for us to keep Amazon happy, and also to keep our community and our residents happy. We do face resistance from communities. So we have to constantly go out and talk to them, explain to them about the benefits for having such a giant company in our backyard.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you that. And we don't have a lot of time to talk about that. And the topic here is challenges. But is there a strategy now to say, we think that we can create X number of SMEs and startups as a result of the Amazon location? I know, for example, in Suwon, South Korea, which was our intelligent community of the year in, I think, 2010, Samsung is there, right? And so they knew that they would create 1,500 or so startups as a result of that company being there. Is there any strategy for or anticipation for the numbers of companies or the types of companies that might spin off from having this massive planet, circumnavigating you?
Well, it's not only Amazon. Amazon, of course, Amazon Web Services, they're into cloud. Their specialty is cloud computing, machine learning, and AI. Those are the technology that Amazon is working on. But interestingly, we don't have a number of how many companies will be developed with Amazon. But I think we have to mention the developer who owns the majority of the land in Amazon recently purchased the CBRS spectrum, which is the 5G spectrum. And their goal from a developer standpoint is that they purchased the spectrum. They want to attract high cutting edge tenants to locate to the national landing area, and also help create this broader smart cities. And we believe that, with the developers also, providing this wireless spectrum as a test bed for companies to come in, that will further generate companies like these high-tech companies, cutting-edge companies. So it's not just Amazon alone, but all of these partnerships that will also bring in, cutting-edge tenants.
Yeah,
if you don't mind, I'd like to also add, as Doug was talking about the infrastructure they have in Dublin, Arlington County also has a robust fiber infrastructure that we had built starting, I think, 2009 to connect the municipal buildings and schools. And as part of an agreement with JBGS, the developer, shortly after Amazon came in, we actually sold a section of the dark fiber and conduit that runs underneath National Landing. It's kind of the backbone to make a lot of that happen. So I think when you think about it, something that Doug, you were saying, it's like we thought, we don't know what it's going to be used for. We don't know what the need is. We know we need to connect our municipal buildings, but there has to be economic development opportunity. And I think you see this investment in fiber in the conduit that is now becoming such a foundation for a lot of these other future investments in companies and technology investments to occur.
Just quickly, Holly, we're on the topic is challenges. Cindy mentioned that, you're sort of responsible for making sure that everything is on track. Is everything on track?
I and a number of other people are making sure that everything is on track. As far as I'm aware, everything
What's
is on
off track?
It's
What's
on,
off? What could go off track? what could go off track? What worries you?
We
when you
have a
again,
pandemic, but things are still, I mean, if you
That
see
would help, yeah.
the building being
Doesn't
built, I
help.
mean, I know they have been, you know, on time for, you know, building the building, and I think there's expectations of what they're supposed to be doing, and I think that they are delivering. Amazon is, and so I think I would say we're on track.
Okay,
Yes.
you're on track. Okay. But the pandemic is a challenge, and it remains a challenge. I'm going to jump over the pandemic question that I had for everybody, lessons learned and so forth, because you all have seemed to have managed through it, and maybe that's something we can revisit at another time in another roundtable. I want to come to the second part of our discussion, because we only got about 10 minutes left, Mr. Lin, which is sustainability. Sustainability comes in different forms, different shapes. You know, it can be environmental sustainability. It can be the human infrastructure that we need to sustain to make sure that multiple generations continue to stay in our communities and develop and have the rights that they deserve as human beings. What is a best practice in the area of sustainability that we might take away from Taiwan, which is doing, I know from my own research, is some really extraordinary things?
Yes, I think sustainability is also a very important topic in Taiwan. Taiwan's government and enterprises and people are all becoming aware of SDGs. That's from the United Nations and the ESGs, and are beginning to take action. My organization, Administration for Digital Industries, has created a platform to invite the civil society associations, NGOs, and other organizations to propose sustainable development needs, and then solicit companies and new startups to use technology to solve those problems or needs. This year, 20 major issues regarding to the environment and the public welfare were selected from a wide range of topics for companies and startups to solve it. These issues included the sea area drifting garbage, smart AEDs, unmanned vehicle precision rescue, and the mobile navigation for the visually impaired, and so on. We encourage those companies and the teams to propose their solutions and choose the top teams whose solutions are most visible. And we give out, grand prize as well as to assist them to do some field trials. Okay, let me give you the example of, drifting sea area drifting garbage. This project won the top prize this year. They designed, unmanned boat combined with various methods to clean up sea drifting garbage. Because it's so environmental friendly, so everybody can go to the seaside to do some activity there. But they, people don't want to see garbage there. So these startups came up with the solution to help to clean up the sea area drifting garbage. So this is our example for sustainability, sustainable development in Taiwan.
Yeah, and there's also, and again, we don't have time, but I wanted people listening to this to Google the WUGU, WUGU Greenland project. That was done in nearby New Taipei City. I've written about this before. It is breathtaking in scope. I mean, you have to remember, Taiwan was a very industrialized country, and now it is rapidly cleaning itself up to become one of the most beautiful places in Asia. The greening stories are unbelievable, but this place was 170 hectares of badly polluted land. There was about 700 companies that were there, many of them illegally. It was like they called it Garbage Mountain. And 22 city offices in New Taipei City worked together to actually transform this into something of an environmental oasis. And what it ended up doing, Doug, was to create we were talking about trust earlier, was to create a level of a respect for civil servants that hadn't existed before. But it was an amazing effort, and it wasn't easy to get some of these people, these polluters, off there. I mean, it's an enormous case study that I think is going to be studied for years to come. But it was a huge success. And I just, I want to ask you, there are many kinds of sustainability, but what is the psychological impact of sustainability when it does finally arrive? How do people generally respond to that, do you think, in your view? Is it something that even businesses say, hey, this is great because we now understand that quality of life is the new capital for economic development?
Yeah, it's a great question, Lou. And I think my own observation is that sustainability occurs more slowly. Like everyone says, yes, we want to be more sustainable and we want to build a more sustainable situation and entities. But in reality, we do not want to give up our lifestyle. We do not want to change. And so I had some thoughts on this. You know, America is a car country based on individual private vehicles that we all must own individually. And in America, Ohio is in the middle of automobile manufacturing. And so when we start thinking about smart mobility, connected and autonomous vehicles, electrification of vehicles, sharing of those vehicles, creating cities that are more dense so that they can be walkable so that we don't use vehicles at all, and then charging those electric vehicles with sustainable, energy development and energy storage systems, there's a lot there. And I do believe that it can be a culture shock. And I believe that I really appreciate what you're saying about not only public sector and civil servants gaining credibility for having done something, but we've come to believe also that it is not alone city workers and civil servants who are coming up with the solutions. It is in our capacity to partner so that we have universities and university students, we have private corporations, we have local government, we have state government, we have federal government, all building these kind of think tank type of problem solving so that you solve the problem. And then at the end of the day, it was not necessarily city workers who alone did it, but perhaps we convene other entities from around, and we're big proponents of that. And then I think that citizens and residents begin to say, I trust that what you're talking about is a level of change that I can manage, and people slowly begin to change, and we rebuild trust in our local governments. I think that's how we get there, but it's a very scary thing, and it's certainly not simple, and there's just so much work to be done to communicate about things so that we can regain trust. At the end of the day, this is going to come down to trust.
It really is. And, I think you were suggesting a couple of things. One is also that once people realize that there's something exciting going on in this area, like you guys are really racing ahead in the area of smart mobility and autonomous vehicles. We saw that over the last couple of days. Then they begin to look at it as an adventure. I mean, I'm always reminded that Ohio is the home of John Glenn, the first American to circle the Earth from space, and Neil Armstrong, the first person of our species to touch the surface of the moon. So we can get excited, and Ohio may actually lead the way. But as you say, there is a buildup to that, right? A psychological buildup to get people over that threshold.
Yeah, I think so. It's interesting. Electrification of the fleet is exciting. Yeah. But it will also save our planet, right? It will save our lives. But if you tell people we have to do it because we have to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels, nobody wants to hear that. But if you say there's a cool new F-150 electric truck out that has towing capacity for your boat, all of a sudden people are excited about it. So,
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. What's in it for me, and how can I get excited about it? Well, we're almost out of time. I want to finish with the ladies from Arlington County on this subject. Again, what Mr. Lynn and Mr. McCollough are actually talking about here is the government being the enabler for a lot of these things to flourish. it's not where the game ends. The game ends with the citizen having a better life and having a freer life and enjoying the fruits of democracy and justice, economic and otherwise. But the county is the enabler in this instance. Is there something? I mean, the Metro Rail was a big deal, right? It was a game changer. It pushed a lot of people out of cars, put them on the public transit system, created that, as I said, 1,200 acres of now green space. Is there something else that we need to think about when it comes to the county of Arlington being an enabler? Is there something else going on there? Sindy, why don't we start with you?
Well, in terms of like sustainable, I will go back to saying investing. I'll use sustainable as investing in the workforce. That will be the workforce of the future for decades to come. So I'll use that interpretation for sustainability.
That's fair. That's really fair, because again, you could very well do what my parents and grandparents did after World War II, create an economy for 3 generations that we all enjoyed until it petered out in the post-industrial age. Holly, you were going to say something, and you're going to get the last word here tonight.
I love that. And I agree with everybody's statements about sustainability, and you hear it referred to often, and people think sometimes very different things, from economic to environmental to, in my case, I'm thinking about it as an entity. And Lisa, you were talking about the investment in the metro. I had heard something recently. I went to hear an author speak, and he was talking about institutions. And I think about, like the county government where I'm working is an institution. It's been around for 100 years. And our role is to make sure that it's around for 100+ more years. And so it means not only thinking about what services and what we're doing today, but envisioning, that where the puck is going. What do I need? With the people who thought about where the metro should be going, that yes, the easy answer was to put it down a highway. But by thinking about what the possibilities were and opening people's eyes and being aware that everyone's not going to agree with you, but how do you make sure that people can trust you to spend time and invest with where you're spending your time in technology, will be better off and make sure that our institutions are around for another 100+ years.
Well, I think that's a great way to end it. I'm going to Google this. I'm going to look at this tape at the end and see how many times the word trust came up, because I think it was there a lot. Right?
Yeah.
It is the word. Well, listen, Mr. Jiunn Shiow Lin, Mr. Doug McCollough, Sindy Yeh, Holly Hartell, thank you so much for having this roundtable discussion with us. On behalf of the Intelligent Community Forum, I want to really thank you. And I think you've revealed to the world why you are part of intelligent communities. So to all of you site selectors out there and companies thinking about places to locate, if you have a choice between an intelligent community and one that's, well, you choose the word, where are you going to go? So you're going to go there. But again, appreciate you coming by. So take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Remember, there really is
Thank
no
you.
place like home.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.